Hello, and this is the Sleon Productions podcast where we interview authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and artists. Today I have a guest that I met a couple years ago through another friend, and we are entrepreneur driven, entrepreneur spirit, and we have Mr. T. Blum's Tony Blum. Welcome to the Sleon Productions podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Tony, you have a lot of, a whole lot of different talents, but one of your main things is art. But first, you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
So a little bit about myself. I'm from Florida, born and raised. Also grew in New York, grew up, and a lot of my inspiration comes from the city. I grew up in the city, fast life, and yeah, I'm a full-time artist. Besides that, I'm a full-time dad, husband, and just out here pretty much like to label myself a builder of the community, and sharing basically the things I've seen and my story pretty much. And that's like my main focus, my life right now.
One of the first things I heard about you is that you would spray paint art in the city of Wynwood, or Miami, but it's a place called Wynwood in Miami where it used to be like really run down, and as of 10, 12 years ago, it's become a tourist place. And for artists, it's probably one of the big things is restaurants. But one of the main things that stick out is art and murals. Can you tell us your experience with that?
Yeah, so when I started painting a while back, it was pretty much like a safe zone for me. This is like 10, 11 years ago. There was basically an art movement happening, and I was actually sent there by my professor at the time, and he wanted us to do a report on Art Basel. And when I saw the art, little galleries we were able to walk through, was the closest thing I got to New York.
But Art Basel was very young back then.
Yeah,
it was just getting started.
It was, it was known, but it wasn't yet like pop-ups happening everywhere. And Wynwood specifically started like basically welcoming the community of young artists, because Art Basel in the beginning was focused for the fine arts and traditional classical. So when I saw this hip scene, it just felt welcoming, felt like a place I could go to express myself, and I started spray painting there. Like you said, it was all warehouses, abandoned, a lot of studios, and now that's not the situation. Now it's all nice, developed, pretty neighborhood, expensive, no studios, artists can't afford it, and but yeah, that's where everything started for me. It started in Wynwood, and it just spread out of there, where I started painting everywhere in the streets possible that I could.
And can you tell us the type of art that you like to paint, to create projects?
Yeah, so when I started painting, my focus was talking about my story. And my story was, when I had to think about it, was a pig that became in existence. And basically the pig was Haza. My street name was Haza. Haza is a Yiddish word used in the movie Scarface for a person that's like greedy, and it literally means a pig that doesn't fly straight. And that's what Tony Montana was called by Frank in the movie, which my first name is Tony. And I related to that whole idea because growing up in Miami, we did a lot of things that was just basically for the money, not for the health and good fortune of people. And so I ran with that story and was painting pigs all over, and money sign in the eyes, and that was basically my focus and what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about money, and I thought pigs was a great way to start that conversation.
And many of you guys are probably very familiar with different type of artists out there. I believe one of them is Mr. Monopoly.
Yeah.
And the other one is, who's the person that paints something, but he kind of like does it secretly? It starts with a B.
Banksy.
Yeah, Banksy.
Yeah, Banksy.
With Tony, he's kind of with those type of artists, kind of, very, very, very close to it. Obviously, painting and strip murals and things like that. You've also painted other stuff than pigs. What other ones have you painted about?
Yeah, so there was 2 collections of mine. Basically, the other collection was literally, it's called my Black Period. And the focus on that, I would take whatever I was feeling. It could be a character, any other character, and it was always a black canvas. The focus of the character would be fluorescent, spray painted with light, and my whole message in that was, in the midst of darkness, there's always light, because I was always in that room, a dark room, whether it be surrounded by people, things, and I always had to find the positive in things to keep going. So I would transmit that into the canvas as well. And when I met my wife, I stopped painting the pigs for like 3 years. I thought I put the pig away. And right now it's actually one of the biggest projects, and only focus is the pigs again. And the Black Period is still kind of going, but it's just more now on the pigs.
You have done some stuff with Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, Bart Simpson. So like the characters I'll use are usually characters I can relate to, and growing up with the Simpsons, definitely always loved Bart. He was the rebel, and always felt like a rebel at heart, and doing something mischievous, reckless, going against Dad, and that's a character that I would like to use a lot. He's spray painting, getting punished, and I always felt like that kid, just doing something wrong and getting disciplined for it.
Which they just renewed their 30th season, so it's one like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's been going on television for that long. Going on with that, besides doing art and paint, you have dealt with resin, with type of sculpture type of art.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I first started, my biggest thing was seeing my art come to life. And I started right away with a ceramic studio. And this was like 8 years ago. And this was a traditional way of sculpting. And moving forward, about like 4 years ago, I got into 3D printing. And we work with resin. I have a production base all around that helps, where a process would take me, several weeks. It now takes me a few days to go ahead and take an idea from thought to existence. So yeah, 3D printing is part of my sculpting making now. And it's fun, but it's messy and really toxic. But it gets the job done, and it's a great way of expressing my thoughts, And the key of everything of being an artist for me, like, I didn't have any experience up till like about 23 years old. 24 is when I started. I'm 34 now. So when I started, it was a blank canvas for me, and it was just like, what do I want to talk about? How am I going to share this? And whatever medium it was, that I felt was the loudest, that's what I went to. So spray painting the walls to sculpture making, like, people go nuts, galleries go nuts about it when they see that you can produce something like that. But for me, it's definitely important about the fine aspect of it, being finished and nicely cleared and all those things. But what's more important to me is like what's underneath and what's the message, there, and that's why I do it.
So why do you think you started in a later age rather than your teens or maybe younger?
Well, I was told, for one, art doesn't make money. It's very difficult. Growing up, going to museums, the artists that I saw was like Picasso, Van Gogh, or even like really ancient art. You're looking at the Roman, the Greek sculptures, it's the Met Museum in New York, and in people's mind, it was unrealistic to have a name or have a purpose in this generation as an artist. But what happened for me was, you know, I was so focused on the money part, and then at 23, 24, feeling like, hey, I know I can do something I like, passionate about. What is the one thing I love? I love art, I love fashion. And, you know, going after that was kind of crazy, but, you know, it made sense, and I'm glad I did, because now it's like the first time in my life where I feel like I have a voice, and also with the voice comes value.
So Tony has not only just dealt with old school art, but he's also got into the new technology of art. As many of you guys heard about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all those great coins, a new feature in cryptocurrency has been NFTs, non-fungible token, where it can range from a lot of things. But one of the main things about NFTs, non-fungible token, is art. And Tony was probably there on day zero, maybe, designing art for NFTs. Tell us your experience with that.
Yeah, so my experience started working with these conventions. Once I did my first painting, which I won't call day zero, but it was pretty in the very beginning, was 2017. I started talking about Bitcoin. It was very like smooth, automatic, because again, I was always talking about finances with my art. So when I saw crypto and the tech, I kind of thought this would be a good thing to talk about. I did not realize it was going to be so big, to be honest. I didn't think it was going to be a conversation that a lot of people, a lot of part of the world was going to get involved in. It didn't make sense at the time, dealing with fiat and just the traditional money. But as I got into it, I began to fall in love with it, and the way that happened was going to these conventions, going to these networking events, and when I started to socialize and realize I wasn't the only one having this conversation, it just got more interesting, and now we're in 23, you know, years later, and we have these conventions where there's, you know, tons of people, and we're talking about it, we're learning about it, we're teaching about it, and you know, behind crypto, what I like to look at is the technology. You know, people like to always talk about the coin, but I like to talk about the code or the programming behind the coin, and that's what's cool about NFT art. NFT art is programmable art, you know, where it's in a smart contract, or it's programmable in the sense of you might have you know, just what's it called? I just blanked out. Yeah.
NFTs.
How did I just blank out? It's called well, kind of like the filters, the augmented reality, things like of that nature, right? So we're used to seeing art in a physical form. But what happens when you start taking art to a digital, and then you start taking it to a digital animated 3D form? And that's where it starts to really become fun. You know, like we grew up playing video games. What happens when you can take your art now and put it in a video game? And that's where we're at now, like especially with the projects I'm working on for myself and with others, is we're able to take these characters that are well known in the community. They're, you know, they have a fan base. They have a community around it, and then you can use it in your everyday life. You can use it, wrap up your Lamborghini in it. You have a smart house, which we're working on a project called Meta Residence, which is all based around this character called well, a group of characters called Cyberconks, and also mine as well. It's not fully based on mine, but mine is part of it, and mine is the Crypto Piggies, talking about the piggies. So here you got like these characters, they're becoming cyber in a way, tech in a way, but they didn't start there, at least for me. They started from, you know, the street, from the walls, from spray paint, but now you can experience it in both. And you know, I'm still keeping that traditional aspect, but I'm bringing in, you know, what people like to call the future. It's now and it's happening, whether, you know, people are aware or not.
It's not the future, it's now. You just said one of your projects you're working with other people. Tell us about your current project, your NFT projects, which you can find on OpenSea. But tell us about.
Yeah, so the Crypto Piggies, that's my project. We've been developing for like 2 years. Most of the projects that you hear, they're up and running quick. It's unusual to hear about a project that's been building for like 2 years plus. And the reason I'm doing that is I've been so focused on bringing real world utilities. You know, I don't just want a digital image. I don't want something that is not tangible. I want people to be able to experience it. So we've been working on the gaming development side with Sandbox and working on different ways to be able to use this character, which Meta Residence 2, which is the first house. Meta Residence 1 is the first mansion built on blockchain simultaneously in the real world and in the metaverse to be made. And my pig's a part of that. When I got to experience that project, working with Sotheby's and Sandbox and my partner Gabe from Meta Residence, it started opening up my eyes of what you can do with your character, what you can do with your art, because I was used to just seeing it on a wall. Now I'm understanding, like, you know, you can play it in a game. Like I said, you can earn tokens, you can earn you know, real financial incentives. And yeah, I just been working on that. We got 7,777 pigs dropping sometime this year in the mid-year, and it's going to be interesting. I did release already, like you said, there is some on OpenSea, but those are for like partners and art collectors. But the public drop is coming soon, and yeah, it's going to be exciting.
There was a huge hype of NFTs, I bet, a year ago, last year, in 2022. What is the state of NFTs now? How do you see it, and where do you think it will go?
Right now, it's definitely a bear market. It's very slow. I think it's great though. It helps, you know, weed out the trash. There was a lot of trash when there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of trash, a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, and you're gonna see things pop up, but they're also gonna go. And what's great is, like, the real projects that have, again, real utility, real tech, you know, real good things behind it, they're gonna last, and they're gonna last forever, you know, for the most part. So I'm really paying attention to those projects right now that are enduring this this winter, crypto winter we call it, and any project that gets through it, you know, I'm kind of a fan or a supporter, because it's like you know, you're bringing something to the table, something to the world, something to the community, and that's really where my focus is. My focus is figuring out what is it that we need, because the stuff we don't need that serves no purpose, it's gonna leave, right? So if it serves a purpose for mankind, at least, like, you would hope, like, we have a use for it, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, what use can this be used for? Because art is definitely, it could hang on a wall, look cute, look pretty, but if you can make something look pretty and nice and all that, have the value, the money, but also use it for something, use it for good, create, you know, like we've been doing crypto cleanups throughout the year, like, and what is that? You know, you come out, you pick up garbage, you're gonna get an NFT, you're gonna get an insensitive of coins, you know, and it's just things like that that I like.
Which is something that I would like to see more if you're joining a club or a partnership with something. You get a NFT art or something with it, not just that. Obviously, there's more perks, but hopefully we'll see that more, because I can envision some other stuff out there for that. Artificial intelligence has become wild. ChatGPT has been very popular these past couple of months. I've used it. I think I'm really surprised with the technology. Still work needed to be done. What are your thoughts over AI, and how could that implement with your art?
Yeah, so me, I love talking about AI because I think it's an interesting tool, a tool that's been needed at least for the fast thinkers and the people like me who are impatient. It can help you tremendously as a building block into creating, your blueprint, your ideas. Having an extra, let's say it's not a person, but a robot or some intelligence there on the side of you, able to bounce your ideas, give you new ones, is amazing. And even create it and when I say created, it's great, not to just take their creations or whatever and literally just say, hey, that's my art, but to build off of it. It's amazing. A lot of artists, even close friends of mine, they're not too crazy about it. And I always get kind of pissed when I start hearing them, talk negative about it, because we live in a world where there's robots all around us. We just may not be aware of it when we're dealing. Maybe it's not super functional like the ones we see in Amazon's creating. I forget their sister one of the companies, Jeff Bezos.
They're doing a lot.
Yeah, what's it called? Boston Dynamics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Boston Dynamics, years ago, I was seeing this. Now they have a whole fleet of different robots, but when we look down to it, like our phone, our computer,
the one with the dog looking one,
I think they got a cheetah or
that could jump.
Yeah, they jump, and these things are amazing. Yes, it's scary looking, and I think that's always going to be the first impulse of motion is fear. But I think once we look past the fear and we pay attention to the reward, and if we can, look at it in a positive perspective and find the positive, it's going to be positive, So obviously you're going to have those knuckleheads that are going to take it, use it for bad, but if that's not your mindset, something good is going to happen. So I think artists that embrace the technology, learn it, and figure out how to work with these machines, they're going to have a better chance of success and moving forward,
What do you think about those AI tools where you tell the algorithm, create me a dog skiing, and it just creates a whole art masterpiece? What's your thoughts over that type of stuff?
Again, I love it. I'm excited when I see those machines working. It's like when I got into ceramic, I was hands-on. It was everything manual, and then when I got into 3D printing, it was like magic for me. And it took out a lot of the pain, the labor, and then that's what the machine is for, but you have to guide the machine, you have to prompt the AI properly, and I think there's still a little skill to it. It just might not be hand skill, but I believe if you are well-rounded in both, you are going to create magic, and that's where I'm at. I know how to paint, I know how to sculpt. When I get to those other things and I bring it together, it's even more amazing.
He's been very innovative with different types of art. Have you thought of art out there that you've not kind of dabbled with yet, or you're kind of one day at a time?
I'm really focused right now. There's so much to learn right now with what I'm doing with gaming development, and the augmented. It's going to be really big. It's already, a lot of big commercial companies are using it. I've brought it to Dolce & Gabbana. I've been experimenting for a little bit of time now with it, and I'm just trying to perfect those things and master that, because there is a learning curve. Also, besides you learning everything, you got to have a good team around you, which, I'm fortunate I have a team around me too. So if I don't know something, my team member does, and when we come together and we put all those pieces like in a puzzle, it creates that masterpiece. And the end goal is always like, it's not just a painting anymore or just a sculpture. It's all these little pieces together that makes a big picture, which my big picture is the pig.
How's it the pig?
Yeah.
How can people, go find your art online?
Yeah. So online, I am cryptopiggies.com, and it's piggies, Piggy's. Also on Instagram, my last name is Blum, so I go by that. I sign my art with my last name. You can find me at Blum Official on Instagram, on Twitter, Blum Official. And also there's a website out there floating around, blumofficial.com. We're about to get back up and running with fine art on there, but I just been so focused on the pigs. That we do have the handle of Crypto Piggies as well on Instagram and Twitter, but until we drop, they're not really active right now. So, but there is a community there.
Would you ever get into like animation?
Yeah, we're doing animation right now. Actually, that's one of the biggest focus, animation. So my studio has become an animative studio. That's really going to be part of our focus. I'm not trying to in a way, my dream is to replace Disney's. I don't know how successful I will be. So Disney's so big; they pretty much own it. They own a lot of the media, and a lot of things, but it's so amazing every time I think about Disney, where he started. He started, with still pictures, and then the still went to animative, and that's where I'm going. I started with still frames, and now we're just packing up. We're expanding from that, and when you do see these animated things come to life, it's like the sculpture, but now the next level of the sculpture, and it's amazing. And yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, I actually saw Walt Disney movie. I think it was on Netflix, and he did a lot of stuff early on. Didn't have much money, and now he owns owns his own empire. I mean, he's no longer alive, but it's just incredible, his story. But Tony Blum, incredible. One more time, the best way for people to reach you online.
Instagram, Twitter, Blum Official is the best way to reach me. One word, and then cryptopiggies.com. Be on the lookout.
Yeah. Google him. He's everywhere. Tony, any closing words before we depart?
The only thing I could think of is the future is now.
I appreciate you coming on to the Sleon Productions podcast.
Oh man, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.